Hey, very good. Well, thank you. And thank you to your audience and everybody participating today. So I'm just going to briefly run through our just newly ready to be published investor relations deck that really is starting to reflect the continued growth and direction of our company in the integrated healthcare space. So we're Empower Clinics, as Jack said. We are CSE listed. We also trade on the OTC QB and in Frankfurt. And we are what we refer to as an integrated healthcare company. And our purpose is, we believe that integrated healthcare is where our patients have access to the best of all worlds. And for us, that is really starting to bring together what we call paramedical services and starting to connect to primary care services. So we currently have 165,000 patients in our database through our clinics in the United States. We have been using telemedicine and technology extensively over the last couple of years. And of course, with the current state of the pandemic that's out there, telemedicine for us is more important than ever before. We have a world-class diagnostics laboratory based in Dallas, Texas. And we're supported by a great leadership team and a great set of practitioners, physicians, healthcare workers, and staff who really care about the patient experience. Our vision going forward is really a world where all people have access to an integrated healthcare experience. It deals with both prevention and problems, combines body and mind wellness, and we treat patients with both alternative and conventional medicine or care. So a general sort of summary for us is we're definitely positioning ourselves to be a leader in this integrated healthcare space. It's a remarkably large and fragmented market, and it's ripe for roll-ups and consolidation, where appropriate, whether it's in our operations in the US and our pending new operations in Canada. We definitely have an experienced board and leadership team, healthcare and finance and technology. And currently we we added a fairly big COVID-19 testing solution program. We commenced that as pilots through our clinics in the state of Arizona. It was a 4-phase rollout, and we're in phase 4, which is allowing us to really focus on helping companies get back to work, helping schools get opened again, dealing with patients who perhaps don't even have healthcare coverage and give them access to COVID testing as required. I touched on the fact that our telemedicine and technology layer are really state-of-the-art, and they are. We utilize telemedicine every single day in our clinics today, and it's going to be, again, a very important tool going forward for our delivery of integrated healthcare services. We should also let you know that there's other parts of our technology that are critically important every day. We have HIPAA compliant healthcare management tools. We have state-of-the-art outbound campaign tools such as email platforms, text message platforms. We have a call center to deal with both inbound and outbound calling to our patients. Another important aspect for me to talk about with the audience is we are operational in the US. It's where our core assets are right now. And we do have our expansions coming to other markets. But it's really important to understand that it's difficult to operate in the US under the regulatory frameworks of the United States if you're a newcomer. We are not a newcomer to the US market. In fact, we're very entrenched through our clinics themselves, through the laboratory that we have in Dallas. It's difficult for outside parties to come in and just try to figure out how to operate in the US. And I think it's very important for me to stress that to the audience that we're entrenched there already, and our team are already healthcare experts, both on the clinic and on the laboratory side. Finally, in summary, is we are engaged in a very aggressive growth strategy. We are rolling up additional clinics both in the US and in Canada. We've just recently announced a pending acquisition in Canada that we think is going to be incredibly accretive to what we're doing. And of course, we had the laboratory acquisition that we just closed approximately a month ago. So generally speaking, from a business strategy, our mission is to create an integrated network of physicians and practitioners who serve patients' needs. We do it in clinics, through telemedicine, and with decentralized mobile delivery, meaning we go to where the patient needs us, not necessarily requiring the patient to come into one of our locations. So there's really two parts I'm going to talk about. First is health and wellness. So we have 6 clinics right now that operate in the US, with a hub sort of being in Phoenix, Arizona, but we're also in the Pacific Northwest, in Oregon State, and in Washington State, where we serve those markets actually primarily through telemedicine, and we have a physical clinic in Portland, Oregon. And we're really trying to create a more accessible, simplified healthcare model. We offer prevention, diagnostics, treatment services, again, always focused on the patient. On the diagnostic and technology side, and I think of this sometimes also as research and development side. So we definitely are utilizing Chi Laboratory that we purchased about a month ago to really help us deliver more national scale on our COVID-19 testing initiatives. Through the combination of Chi Medical Laboratory and Sun Valley, on the ground, we have the ability to offer broad scale testing initiatives for COVID testing, and a whole variety of styles. The gold standard is the RT-PCR test that we're kind of all familiar with now, which is either the nasal or the throat swab. And in our lab, we have great capacity for volume, and that volume has been ramping up dramatically already since we made the acquisition itself. So with our clinics, the Sun Valley Group we acquired back in 2019, a very accretive transaction, generates solid top line revenue, cash flow positive. We have been, for the first half of 2020, positive cash flow from operations, and which in itself it seems like that's what we would always expect, but a lot of times in the small and medium cap world, generating cash from operations is sometimes really just doesn't happen. So I think it's something that we pride ourselves on, is that ability to make sure that our clinic operations do operate on a cash flow positive basis. So in addition to our 6 clinics that we currently have, in October, we announced the intention, or the non-binding term sheet, to acquire a group called Momentum Health in Ontario, in the Greater Toronto area. So that acquisition will bring 7 new clinics to the group that are operating today. But there's a really extensive expansion beyond that, once we get through the closing, which we are in the final stages of right now. So there'll be more announcements coming in the not too distant future about the completion of that transaction, and then the follow-on announcements of what our expansion plans look like. These transactions, are really sum up kind of our aggressive growth plans, and for in the United States and in Canada, and we're very excited to add numerous more clinics over time. Chi Medical Laboratory in Dallas, Texas, was an acquisition that we closed about 1 month ago. I think it was October 6th, if I believe, and it really establishes that science and research side of our company. So the lab offers a wide array of services, whether it's hematology, hormone, endocrinology, toxicology type testing. Right now, with the given pandemic that we're in, our demand is greatest at the moment for our COVID-19 testing. So we are a high complexity certified CLIA and COLA accredited lab, which is a very important designation. Having that laboratory really has allowed us to take advantage of their capacity to process 4,000 specimens per day. We're seeing those numbers jump substantially, and it's really taking advantage of combining the on-the-ground clinic healthcare techs in locations like Arizona with the lab processing capability. And really, one without the other is not as efficient as putting the two together. And we've been able to already see accretive benefits from having the lab working directly day to day with the initiatives of the clinics in Arizona. So in 2020, we really have been kind of repurposing ourselves to be able to deal with the demand that's out there. We also announced recently a partnership with Loop Insights, which is bringing together really what is becoming kind of a critical combination, and that is you need to be able to do venue tracing or contact tracing in a really efficient technology-based manner. And so the combination of contact tracing initiatives and COVID testing initiatives are really, we're seeing industries that aren't even able to open unless these solutions could be brought to the table. So think of tourism, think of travel, think of airlines, think of Division I colleges, NC2A events that can't operate unless you can have contact tracing and testing initiatives combined. So we are really kind of bullish on the potential combination of this partnership with Loop Insights. They're bringing opportunities to us on the testing side. We're bringing testing solutions to them to enable them to sign new contracts as well. So again, a partnership that I think is very accretive to both groups. I want to touch just briefly on research and development and what this really means to us at this stage where the markets are. So Chi Laboratory have already been working on additional combinations of testing. So we have a test protocol underway that's coming to market shortly that we refer to as the Chi Medical ABC PCR test. ABC meaning this test protocol will test for influenza A, influenza B, and COVID in the same specimen. Again, it's a now in-demand test protocol, given we're entering flu season throughout North America. So we're excited for that one to be in market. We've also been participating in supporting clinical trials with other pharma companies for new versions of COVID tests, specifically COVID rapid antigen tests that are now currently submitted to the FDA for approval. And then we'll support additional submissions to Health Canada for these same sorts of protocols that we were involved in validating the quality of the test itself, but then we'll support actually helping get those tests approved under the guidelines of the FDA and also of Health Canada. Our talents, of course, are very important. I have a great team. We've got 55 active professionals on the ground today. That does not include any of the new growth opportunities with our Canadian acquisition. That's going to add quite a bit more staff to our organization. We have a large percentage of our staff are really healthcare professionals, whether that means physicians, practitioners, phlebotomists. We have COVID specialists. And all supported by a great leadership team that have diverse backgrounds in healthcare and finance, technology, and capital markets. Our board is made up of myself. I'm the chairman and CEO of our board. Andreas Bunksha is an attorney in Phoenix, Arizona. Great corporate experience and incredibly supportive as our independent board member. Dustin Klein is our Senior VP of Business Development. He was a co-founder of Sun Valley Health, the company, the clinic group that we acquired last year. And he's been a great experienced healthcare professional to support us on the board itself. Kyle Appleby is our CFO based in Toronto. Tremendous capital markets experience. Andrea Klein is our VP of Operations for the company. She's the other co-founder of Sun Valley Clinics, and she is very much an operations expert and a healthcare professional for numerous years. Yoshi Tyler is our president of Chi Medical Laboratory. Yoshi was the original founder of Chi and stayed on with us to bring incredible leadership in the lab diagnostics and the R&D side of our business. Just to touch briefly on kind of where we are in financials, we definitely are in growth mode. These numbers are in US dollars, not Canadian dollars, because we report in US dollars. I think the thing to be noted is really the traction that we started to gain coming out of 2019 and into 2020. And in spite of going into the pandemic environment that we're in, we continue to see very strong quarter-over-quarter growth. So Q4 of last year, we were up 217% over the prior Q4 of 2018. Our Q1 was up 416, and our Q2 was up about the same number as well. Our patient visits is another thing, I guess a KPI that we look at, because patient visits are such a leading indicator to our revenue. It's really almost a direct correlation. And in the first half of 2020, we were up significantly, seeing over nearly 12,500 patients in the first half of 2020 versus just 5,500 patients in the same period in 2019. Something that I look at very closely, and I want the audience to also think about this, and this is really about comps, comparables to the industry. And we look at sort of valuation versus TTM, so say trailing 12 months revenue, and we look at where we sit, and then we look at some quality peers that are out there both in Canada and in the US. You see, companies like Teladoc or Amwell or say, Well Health out of Canada, everybody really getting incredibly strong multiples, up to the 30s and in some cases as much as 40 times TTM, where we currently are sitting at 4 or 5 in that sort of range as a multiple. In my mind, as I think of an investment, opportunity, I think that our company, given that we're on the cusp of this, really explosive growth, particularly with the deals that we've set up, I really think that we are going to start to get rewarded with with better multiples. I mean, for goodness sake, if we were even to get half of those other multiples, it'd be a tremendous amount of growth for us from where we sit today. So I'm going to keep an eye on these comps, watch them closely, measure ourselves against other high quality healthcare public companies in North America, and let's see how we perform on these multiples going forward. So just kind of bring things to a conclusion, kind of what we think about, why we're going to win is, we've got a leadership team that are dedicated. They are professional. They ultimately care about the patient experience, and having that as a baseline really will translate into the opportunity to be a successful winning company going forward. We've got proven and established, healthcare operations in the U.S. We know what we're doing in the U.S. markets, and as Canadians, obviously, when we get these transactions closed in Canada, we know how to operate in Canada, but not to be underestimated is the technical requirements to operate successfully in U.S. healthcare is fairly significant. We think the R&D diagnostics and the COVID testing market are going to continue to be full of demand that we're going to continue to meet. And as even as at some point, COVID testing requirements over the long term may start to slow down, but not anytime in the near future. I mean, we're a long way from vaccines that are actually even going to be available to distribute. And then ultimately, we can become a player in the distribution of vaccine over time because we have clinics, we have locations, we have physicians and staff who can help administer. Our technology layer continues to be very important. There'll be more coming on how our technology and artificial intelligence capabilities are going to come into play over time. We've got an aggressive rollout strategy for North America, and then fundamentally, I think that we're undervalued relative to the peers across North America in the public space. So I want to say thank you to the audience for listening to me right now. I try to be fairly crisp and succinct with the presentation, but I welcome any questions that the audience might have at this time.
Okay, Steve, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, perfect. All right, we got a bunch of questions coming in, so let's jump into the questions. Okay, Eric is asking, telemedicine stocks, excuse me, telemedicine stocks are hot right now. Do you plan to expand your telemedicine business?
Yeah, that's a very simple answer. The answer is yes on that. We recognize the importance of telemedicine and that aspect of the delivery of care to our patients wherever they may be. We utilize our telemedicine platform today, every day, and the platform that we utilize in the U.S. today is completely replicable for Canadian market. So as we are able to close the transactions in Canada and continue that expansion, telemedicine will be part of that rollout and expansion across those markets like Canada and other markets in the US.
Okay, next question. Hami's asking, can you discuss where you're working with Loop Insights currently?
Where we're working with Loop Insights? Okay, so we are in discussions with other partnerships that Loop has brought to the table, and vice versa. We have put opportunities to Loop Insights. So we're working on opportunities together. They're working on their prospects. We're working on our prospects, and in each and every case, we're all talking about the need to combine contact tracing solution with testing solutions. So we have, really numerous conversations that are taking place right now with groups. The Loop programs, some of their first big ones are kicking off here in the month of November, and we would expect to be able to announce to the audience and to the market new deals in the not too distant future that will involve the combination of Loop Insights contact tracing technology with our testing capabilities.
Okay, Roland is asking, what's the market cap right now? You did a financing, so fully diluted. What's the?
We would be.
Sure.
Yeah, let me just. I haven't seen where we're sitting today, but we will be. I'm going to say in the range of 14 to 15 million as a market cap today.
Okay. Canadian or U.S.? What is it?
That would be based on CSE pricing. So
okay. Oh, so this is pretty reasonable. Okay. I guess EPS book. I mean, I don't know. It's not. I don't know how the EPS. There's no PE yet. Right?
No, there isn't. I mean, we have our third quarter financials coming out very soon, and so obviously we'll have an update there on things like EPS. We were at a loss, I believe, of approximately 4 cents per share in our year-end financials, if my memory serves correctly. And as I said earlier, in the first half results, we were positive cash from operations, including all corporate costs, which I thought was quite a nice milestone for us. So not only are we really driving these growth opportunities and investing in such, but our businesses generate cash from operations. We see patients every day, and those patients get billed every day. Chi Medical Laboratories contributions aren't even in the financials yet, so we're very excited to see those contributions for the fourth quarter of 2020, and obviously that will contribute to full year results as well. But those won't be published until in 2021.
Okay. Speaking of Chi, Eric is asking a follow-up question. You have said that Chi Lab can do 4,000 tests a day. Are you able to increase that number by having more shifts per day?
So the actual way that we would do it, I'll tell you where that math comes from. So we are able to process 2,000 specimens per 8-hour shift with the current equipment. So if we add an additional shift, that gets us to our 4,000. We have the space in the lab. And the lab is a beautiful lab right in the heart of the medical district of Dallas, Texas. We, from a capacity standpoint, if our demand is going over that 4,000 specimens per day, I will simply add additional machinery to run more volume. So if we were to take our existing machine and get another one that's identical, we would then be adding an additional 2,000 specimens per 8-hour shift, and then it's really about staffing and manpower to make sure that we can deal with the processing capacity. But the lab has the space to be able to add additional pieces of testing equipment to support future volume.
Okay, Dan is asking, you mentioned that the space is very fragmented. So what opportunities does this present to you? And he's also asking a follow-up question about, are you planning to acquire new labs, keeping up with the demand mentioned earlier?
Yeah, so the concept of fragmentation and rolling that up, we just see that, in the markets that we serve, we see it in the markets that we pay attention to. And one of our great strengths is our ability to manage physicians and manage facilities and operations and HR. What it does when we bring physicians in, and let's talk about our paramedical services, so things like pain management, physiotherapy, chiropractic, acupuncture, et cetera, and to the extent that over time we connect that with primary care centers, and then potentially ultimately, we bring primary care on as well. So that our ability to effectively manage that sort of physician to patient supply chain is one of the reasons why physicians are attracted to coming into our model. They get to focus on the delivery of care, and that's it. We take care of all of the overhead, administration, HR, accounting, finance, facility management aspects as a corporation, allowing that physician to really focus on what they do best as a specialist. The fragmentation is, there are literally thousands and thousands of individual clinics, whether you're a chiropractic clinic or a naturopathic clinic or you're an acupuncture. We just don't think that that's the most efficient model. The ability to bring those services together in a consolidated, streamlined approach, we think makes a much more sense as a business model. The second part of the question was, are we looking at other labs, or are we looking for other labs? And again, the short answer is yes. We absolutely are. We don't have anything to announce at this point in time, but we certainly do believe that there are opportunities to look at lab acquisitions in other markets in the United States, because the U.S. market is just so large, and also in Canada itself. The market's not as large in Canada, but it's still a large market with a lot of revenue opportunity available, both on the lab R&D side and the delivery of patient care through clinics and telemedicine.
Okay, we got time for a few more questions. We're running a little behind, so let's do see if we can do 4 more questions here. Spence coming in with question number 1. Are you working with any airlines or cruise lines with your travel bubble rollout solution?
So the answer is we are in discussions at this point in time. I can't provide any sort of announcement right now, but it's an industry, and you mentioned cruise lines, and you mentioned airlines. So we are in active discussions with both industries for various different programs, both on the Canadian side and on the U.S. side.
We got a couple of people asking, how important is the recent legalization of several quote-unquote substances this month to your growth in 2021?
Yeah, so we have been working extremely hard to really adjust what our sort of core revenues are. So if any of the audience looks back to the history of empowered clinics, it had a prior focus on medical cannabis certifications. And it was our board's opinion and my opinion that from a business model and a thesis, it ultimately is not a defensible business model to be solely focused on that service. If you take, let's take the state of Arizona as a perfect example. The state of Arizona historically has been a medical cannabis regulatory framework. In the recent U.S. election, the state of Arizona had a ballot that went through that will fully make cannabis fully recreational legal in the state of Arizona, and that implementation would be no later than April 1st of 2021. From the moment that that acquisition was closed back in 2019, we immediately started to work on diversification of services and revenue with the anticipation that a ballot initiative like this would be coming through. I couldn't, sit idly by and not anticipate that something like that could take place. So we have absolutely made a shift where our revenue dependency is no longer on that core service of medical cannabis consultations. Those services will exist in those clinics in the future, but it certainly will not be the primary source of revenue for those clinics going forward.
Okay, so kind of a related question. There was no, Justin saying there was no mention of psychedelics in the presentation. Are you discontinuing this side of the business?
No, we're not discontinuing. We, as you saw from the presentation, we definitely talk about mental health and what that's going to mean going forward. I know our strength in the future as it relates to mental health is going to be around access to patients and having clinic locations. So we will absolutely continue to focus on the significant need, and then the demand from a business standpoint on mental health and how we leverage our strength in being a clinic operator. The delivery of the potential of psychedelic, treatment options in the future is going to require physicians. It's going to require clinics. This is not going to be a recreational set of products in the future. It really demands physician care and physician monitoring in the utilization of those types of treatment options. So the fact that we are continuing to identify, clinic roll-up opportunities will actually position us to be as strong as anybody in the mental health sector going forward.
Okay, we're getting a bunch of questions, or I think we're almost out of time. We'll have to catch up with these. Okay, let's do one last question. So we have here we go. So Hemi's asking, are you planning to expand the lab side of the business into Canada?
So we are definitely looking at that. We're focusing first on getting, obviously, our clinic acquisition in Canada closed. We're in the final stages of legal documentation and the final due diligence. Everything is looking very positive. And once that's on the books and we have the leadership team and the staff now as wholly owned subsidiary, we are going to look to identify lab opportunities in Canada. Again, as I said earlier, we think that it's something that we like the way that the diagnostics capabilities connect with the clinics and the delivery of care to our patients. So we're definitely going to look for those opportunities.
Okay, you know what? I'll do one last question on it because we have several related, kind of related to this. So Justin was asking about, are you expecting any material contracts in the near future? Material COVID contracts? Are you expecting more COVID contracts? Is there any follow-up on the Disney testing that was announced last month?
Yeah, so we our film and television testing initiatives are really going great. I've got some announcements coming up, so I'll have to be careful about sort of what I can say right now about that. We are seeing increased awareness and increased demand, and it's really this combination of having Chi Medical Laboratory on the testing side, and the audience needs to understand that being a high complexity CLIA COLA certified lab enables our clinic layer, Sun Valley Clinics, say in Arizona, to offer testing programs to businesses, consumers of all types. So not only are we able to do cash pay programs where, say, a consumer or a business just says, we need our employees tested and we'll pay for that now, but because we have the lab, and the lab has medical insurance billing contracts, Medicare, Medicaid, Blue Cross Blue Shield. Having that ability to offer insurance support on the ground now enables Sun Valley Health, as an example, to run community testing programs. So we've got a new program that's launched with the city of Mesa, as an example, and other groups where the consumers can now come up and provide their insurance information, and they don't have to pay out of pocket. And the only way that we can offer that is because we now have we own the laboratory completely. So that's been a really interesting combination that's enabled Sun Valley to access growth opportunities that they could never access before. And of course, that drives more volume into Chi Laboratory because we have the capacity to process thousands of specimens each day.
Okay, Steve, we're gonna have to catch up with you in the next live stream because we got a bunch of questions coming in. So hopefully in about a week or so, pending some news, we're looking for some good news flow coming from you. So, Steve, I want to thank you again, and we will catch up with you hopefully by next week.
Sounds great, Jack. Thank you for your time, and thank you to the audience for listening today.
Thank you, Steve.